So in this teaching video, we're going to go over how to use and create pick lists in your macros and templates within Powerscribe. So as an example, we're going to take a look at my CT of the abdomen and pelvis template. So in this one, you can see that after the header, we have in the findings the different fill-in fields, and each of these is associated with the pick list. So to select them, you can just double click on any of these. You can also say pick 4. You can pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4 to select whichever one you want. Pick 1, pick 2. As you can see, the voice command can be a little bit delayed, so sometimes I just click. You can also say the name of the pick list choice. So let's just say I'm down here in bowel. I want the diverticulosis one, and this is like a title for it, or so it's not the full text here is what pops up if I hover my mouse. So diverticulosis, right? So that brings up the actual choice. So how do we create these? So what we're going to do is go in here, and I've been wanting to add another field to this template. So let's do this together as a teaching example. So we'll go into the auto text editor, right? And we'll bring up my CT of the abdomen and pelvis. Okay. And we'll use this as an example. You can see here the fill-in fields. We find the bowel one, and we're just going to add something after here. So one of the things I've been wanting to do is add a pick list where the default says no evidence of bowel obstruction, and there are pick list items to add diverticulosis and other things, but then you've lost the no evidence of bowel obstruction. Sometimes I want to add just an additional pertinent negative or an incidental finding, but I don't want to remove the no evidence of bowel obstruction, right? So I want to add a new field to be able to do that. So let's just do that this way. So I'm going to hit fill-in field, right? And here we're creating a fill-in field, and whereas a lot of more basic templates will use the text type fill-in field, you're basically going to go down here and use pick list, and we'll cover some of these other options in other videos, but you just choose pick list, and now we're going to add the options. So what I want is to be able to say something like colonic diverticulosis without evidence of diverticulitis, right? So let's do that as an option. And one of the problems that I've noticed with Powerscribe is if you try to dictate into this box, sometimes the voice recognition becomes very wonky. So what will happen sometimes is that it will make up and record and put in very odd things, and then if you try again, it'll work better. So let's see what happens here. Colonic diverticulosis without evidence of acute diverticulitis, period. Yeah, so like that didn't work. So let's see if we try it again, it might work. Oh, see, this is what will happen. It'll sometimes freeze up a bit, and oftentimes if you try a second time, it'll work much better. So let's try. Oh, we've gotten into freeze. 1 second. Oh, it's because I had the mic on the whole time. Let's try one more time. Colonic diverticulosis without evidence of acute diverticulitis, period. There you go. See, this system can be very odd sometimes. Sometimes I even type because of this wonkiness. I don't know if that's our system or everyone, but I just hit OK. So now we've got that pick list option. So one thing to note about pick lists is that you can make them by default empty, and you can allow empty, and that way, if you haven't picked an item and you have no default, then you can still sign the report and you'll get a pop-up asking you to fill in that field. So let's add one more item. Let's just say no evidence of confluent bowel inflammation, period. Oops. No evidence of confluent bowel inflammation, period. No evidence of confluent bowel inflammation. Okay. Now, sometimes what I'll do is I'll have the name be usually I have it as one of the options, but we'll just have it be some sort of blank or placeholder for now, and go with that. And if I save, I might go down here and see that there's now this blank field here, right? And here, now let's go back to this report. We bring up this thing again, macro CT abdomen pelvis. You can see now that there is a pick list with an empty field that allows you to add this, okay? Now, if we go back, bring this up, we can set a default if we'd like. So, let's see, find the bowel again, fill in. If we really wanted, we could set this one as a default, and that would produce the no evidence of confluent bowel inflammation. That would be now the default text. So let's save this again. And if we do this, you can macro CT abdomen pelvis. You can see that that comes up. Now, if for whatever reason you have something that has a default already and you want to get rid of it, it's a little bit complicated. You actually have to add, what I found is that sometimes you have to add an option, because you've already set a default. Now you want to remove the default, but there's no, as far as I understand, there's nothing you can do to remove the default. So what I do is I create a new placeholder, something like this, and I set that one as a default, and then I delete the default. I gotta allow empty. I save it again. As you can see, that's come back. If we go macro CT abdomen pelvis, it's back to being, allowing it to be empty, okay? So if I were to, if this were a real report and I were to sign it, I would not get that pop-up that's saying, oh, are you worried that this is an empty field, or do you want to fill it? So that would just allow it to pass through. Okay, so pick lists are incredibly powerful, and I would recommend that you think about, if you don't already use them extensively, to look into building them, or find templates that already have them and clone them, and just leverage this as a reporting tool. The ability to input common findings very quickly without the lag that is associated with calling, let's say, macros or templates with verbal commands it's a huge advantage. And essentially every single one of my templates leverages this on as many lines as possible. And if there are, if I have templates where I haven't added pick lists, which is I would say basically all my templates have pick lists, but there are some fields that don't, and that just represents places where either I haven't yet had the time, or I replace the default or the template so rarely that it's not even, hasn't yet been worth it. But almost every single of my templates, the vast majority of the fields will have some sort of pick list built in there. So what I would encourage you to think about is that every single field in your, let's say, most common templates, to think about what are the most common 3 to 5 things you say, and to have them as pick list choices. And this can reduce the need to even call macros if you say something like, macro white matter disease on a brain. So let me just show you my CT head template. And that's by the way, I just used a macro shortcut right there, typing a string. So I've got a separate teaching video about using those. So here I've got like the paraventricular and subcortical white matter hypodensities. That, you could have something like macro white matter, or macro old brain or something to call that. But if you have it as just a pick list item, it's even easier to use. So that's one way to leverage this, let's say, functionality to just improve your efficiency and truthfully also minimize the chance of error that arises from the imperfection that sometimes the voice to text can introduce inadvertently. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, and what I would say is to really consider using this. This has been a huge advancement for my own efficiency and workflow, and you could also just steal my templates, which are publicly available on the the repository online, which is linked within the text, and take advantage of work that other people have done. So I hope you've learned something. All right.